welcome to Bostonian Rap. My name is Rachel Meiselman, and I am very pleased to have tonight as a special guest Jayme Allan. She is running for a seat on the Massachusetts Republican State Committee for the Norfolk, Suffolk District. Jayme, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me, Rachel.
Absolutely. As I said, I'm thrilled, delighted, and all the rest. I always like to give people a glimpse behind the public figure. I like to paint a portrait. It's not just the candidate, it's the person. So why don't we start with you telling me and the viewers how you got involved with politics. How did you become politically active?
Well, that's what I keep asking myself.
It's a blood sport, right? Politics is a blood sport.
Well, I've learned,
it can be.
Yes, I try to stay out of that part. But, well, my husband is actually, an intellectual and studies history and economics, and he was very concerned about what's going on in our country and our state. And I decided to not just watch television, but to start doing research.
Sure. And
once I started learning more and more, it's pretty disturbing. And, I was generally a very happy-go-lucky person. But for me, the way it impacted me was I had to do something. I had to do my part, whatever that would be. And so at the time, I ended up, there was a certain it was a presidential election year, and it was actually Ron Paul inspired me.
Okay.
I thought he was very constitutionally based. And
so this is 2012?
2012.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had an opportunity. It came across, my email or something to go hold a sign, and I didn't know they would have signs, so I laminated things, had 2 bulletin boards and had flyers, and set up 2 chairs with bulletin boards and was given flyers at the light at Legacy Place.
Sure.
With some other Ron Paul supporters. And then it's like, well, let's go to Panera's. And then they talked, So before you know it, here I was running to be an alternate delegate for the Republican National Convention.
Wow.
And so it was like, I just had the attitude that I'm just going to take any and every opportunity that I'm able to, and put myself out there and be willing to be very uncomfortable, go into a situation where you don't know anyone and they don't know you. And so I ended up doing that, going, running, and I went to the Republican National Convention.
That must have been thrilling.
It was. It was very intense, to be honest, because the people are human and things don't go perfectly as you would like.
Sure. And people become, I think, invested in their candidates and in the process, and sometimes even within a party, there can be differences, sometimes even sharp differences.
Right.
That happens.
Right. And I know I met Michael Steele, and we had a pretty intense conversation. And
so for the viewers at home who might not know who Michael Steele is.
Well, he used to be the chair of the Republican National Committee.
Right. And I liked him. I thought he was, I found that he was a very pragmatic individual. I think he's a very committed and dedicated individual. I know other people maybe thought that he needed to be a little bit more forceful, but different people have different styles. And I think that you can have different personalities, and I think that there are different ways to be effective. So I think that his time as chair, I think it was a good time. I don't see it as a negative. I think he brought a lot to the table.
So you know all the history. Since I just started in 2012, I just, just knew him starting at that point, not knowing his history. But I knew he was somebody, I'd seen him on television doing interviews.
I think he's very accomplished, very articulate. Again, I think that, people think that you have to come out with all guns blazing. And I think that when it comes to politics, I don't think that that's very, I don't think that's always the best choice. I almost said smart, but I'm going to say it's not always the best choice. And again, I think that as an individual and as a professional, I think he brought a lot to the party. He continues to bring a lot to the party. So
one of the things that
must have been a nice moment for you
right.
to meet him.
And he actually, there was a lot of different things going on that was blocking the Ron Paul supporters having a sign, and so I talked to him about it, and he just told me, just keep your eye on the Constitution. He said, if somebody blocks you, he goes, that you go over, you go under, you go to the left, you go to the right, but you keep going, And then I had the opportunity this year at the Liberty Republican biannual convention.
Mm-hmm.
And both times I took pictures. I think he looked the same. I aged. But I was so excited, and I was just really excited, and I was like, "Do you remember me?" And I reminded him of everything, and he remembered.
Yeah, no, he comes across as every time I've never met him myself, but every time I've seen him in an interview or heard him, speak at an event, televised on, they're watching it. He's always come across, as an affable, personable figure. So. I want to draw something out. So you mentioned liberty, and I know that you sometimes refer to yourself as Liberty Mom. And it's, Republicans, again, as I said, even within a party, you can have sharp differences, and that's okay. It's always been like that. It's not anything bad. I don't think we should always be rowing in the same direction. And there certainly is a liberty part of the Republican Party. But I want to kind of move on because I think that gives viewers already an idea of, okay, who are you? What are you doing? It's a nice kind of like backdrop. Mm-hmm. And I'll also say this before I move on to kind of the next part of our interview. I think that people can relate to what you're saying, regardless of political party, because I think that a lot of people, they're not necessarily political. They're just kind of, okay, well, I see businesses closing, or maybe I don't see as many jobs as I would like being created, or I try to reach out to my elected officials, I didn't hear back,
Right.
and just, you might get an email, or you might get a call, and one day you might be channel surfing, and you discover something, and like a light bulb goes on, and then it's just, the rest is history, to use a hackneyed expression. Now, what's interesting about you, I find, in the time that I've known you, and I've known you for a little bit now, Jayme, you don't run away from the Republican label. Now, some do, and I'm not going to chastise them, because there is an image of Republicans, and it's not always positive. And so some people, they see beyond that label, and they recognize the core values of the party as something that, as values that are in line with their own, and so that's why they're members of the Republican Party. But beyond that, when they present themselves to people who are not Republican, they're very careful because they're aware of the image that some might have, that some members of the media might project of the party and its members. And so they can be timid on occasion, but you're not. No, but that's a good thing, I think, because I think that, regardless of your political party or your political positions, I think you should own them. I think you should own them. But why do you think sometimes people might shy away from saying, hey, I'm a Republican? why do you think sometimes people might be a little bit quiet about their political affiliation?
Well, I think a lot of times, well, I'm very involved in my church, and I think a lot of times people are hesitant to discuss politics
Sure.
even there because, it can stir up strong feelings
Sure.
that, can create division.
Sure.
So I personally, believe in finding commonalities.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's important. Again, regardless of your political party, you have to be able to reach out to people, and I think it's very important to show people respect. It's kind of, if you want others to respect you, you have to certainly be willing to give that to other people, the respect that is.
And I'm pretty secure with who I am as a person. I actually go to a church that's diverse, and I raise my kids, they're teenagers now, and I'm most comfortable in that. And so I see myself as a Christian before Republican.
Okay.
And I do believe that the party, and that's why I appreciate actually Rand Paul. He was someone I supported.
Whom you supported, right?
Yes, because he did reach across the aisle, and he looked into positions that others didn't. Regarding minorities, regarding prison reform.
He did. He did make some points that came to the attention of different pundits. I try to listen to different stations, people of different political inclinations, because I don't want to be kind of in this wind tunnel, this echo chamber. And I remember there was this one conversation between a couple of commentators, different racial backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, and they were both, pretty positive about some of the points that Rand Paul made regarding minorities. They were impressed. They thought it took courage for him to say some of the things that he did. He was talking about, legalization of drugs, and he was also talking about the war on drugs and how that disproportionately affected certain groups.
Yeah, minorities.
Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our first break of the night, and when we come back, we're going to tell viewers what the seat that you're running for, the towns, the cities that it actually encompasses.
So I would like to
just a quick break first,
Okay.
quick break, and then we'll show that book on Rand Paul. I know it's a great book, and I know people want to see it, and they're probably like, okay, Rand Paul, he makes a good point. Who is this man? I want to know more, for the people who might not be as familiar. So we'll definitely talk a little bit more about him, but we'll focus a little bit more on the race as well. Okay, but first a break.